Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Taking the Fear Out of Canvas. Today, we are going to talk about blueprint courses, and this time we're going to go to a deeper look at what those look like, and I'm going to answer some frequently asked questions, and I'll show you how these look like from the admin side when we set them up, what they look like on your end if you're using a blueprint course, and kind of your next steps and what you need to do to make blueprint courses work for you. So I'm going to start first of all by showing you a blueprint course again. So I'm going to take you out to the DigiTools course. And this is a course that's a blueprint course. Now, I'm going to tell you some best practices, and I know blueprint courses get used in a lot of different ways. But I will tell you that best practices for a blueprint course is that the blueprint course itself only has content. When it only has content, that means the classes that content gets pushed out to, it's only new content that gets pushed out there. If you include a homepage that changes every single week, that means that the teacher of those associated courses doesn't have the ability to change their own homepage. It changes every single week and they have to go in and readjust it every week. So, as I'm sitting here talking, I thought, let me go back and let me tell you a little bit about the vocabulary terms again. So let me backstep just a little bit. So a blueprint course is a course that is set up and it is created by several teachers. And those teachers depend on groups. It could be a PLC group. It could be a larger group. It might be like a fifth grade PE class across the district. And so all the elementary PE teachers form a PLC group, and they want to have one class they put together. And then and so you put content into a blueprint course. And then the blueprint course can get all that content can get pushed out to any classes that are associated with it. Let me explain that just a little bit more, and I'll explain that by showing you. So in Canvas, a blueprint course is recognized by the little blue bar on the right side of it. And then when you click on the little icon here, it's going to tell you some information about that blueprint course. So a blueprint course would look like any normal course, except it has classes associated with it. So when I click on this association, this is where we see which classes currently that content gets pushed out to. And so in our DigiTools classes, we have all 14 sections of DigiTools are associated with this blueprint course. Now, associations can only be created by Niall or I. So once you have a blueprint course put together, and I'll talk to you about that in just a minute, that association needs to happen at the admin level. And so what happened here was that each term, so at the semester break, I go in and I associate the new courses into this blueprint course so that then I can push a button and that content will get pushed to all 14 of these courses. Now, in a blueprint course, you notice that there are changes. So right here, it says there's unsynced 14 or 21 changes. So this means that the people who are the teachers in the blueprint course, they have made 21 changes to that blueprint course since it was last pushed out to these 14 classes. And so each time I push this sync button, that new content gets pushed out to all 14 of these classes that are associated with it. So let me give you another example. So at Chain Lake Elementary, we've been creating blueprint courses for their grade level teams. And so in their fifth grade blueprint course, there are 3 or 4 teachers who are teachers in this blueprint course. They're adding content. And so then I have gone in as the administrator and I have associated those 4 teachers. I've associated their student classes right here into the blueprint. And so they would show up as 4 classes in here. And then when we sync the work, anything new that those teachers have added to the blueprint course, it gets pushed into those 4 classes full of students. And so this is sort of the working place. Like a blueprint is a work. It's a work for the building that's going to be built. This is the same thing in Canvas. So this is the work, that the content that gets put into here. Then it's content that all 4 or all 10 or however many teachers are associated. It's the work that they want to have pushed out to their classes. And so as you kind of are thinking about what goes into a blueprint, it should be just content that all teachers want to have pushed out to their personal classes that have students in them. So that's why I suggest that we not create that homepage, because I have seen, I've gone and looked at some of the teacher homepages, and there's some beautiful homepages out there. And so if you associate a homepage in your blueprint course and that gets pushed out, every time it gets pushed out, a blueprint course recognizes new changes. And so then it's going to override the pretty home pages that the teacher has created. So that's why you want to just really be careful. It's just content in your blueprint course. Okay, so that's what I mean by associations. So associations are classes that are attached to this blueprint. And when a teacher syncs this content, that content gets pushed out to each one of those courses, and it syncs out brand new content. So let's take a look. So if I click on this unsync changes, this is going to tell me what got changed. So you can see that an assignment got updated. So I can tell you that this $1 trillion footprint, this is an assignment that Digitools has used for 2 or 3 years now. But there's continual changes we want to do and update that to make it better and better for students, right? And so if we go into the blueprint course and we make changes to that assignment, then it's going to push that update out, just those small little changes. It only pushes out the new changes in a blueprint course. So it's just those little changes that gets pushed out to every single course. So the course, the associated course, is still going to see this $1 trillion footprint lesson plan out there, but it is going to show now the updates. And so if a word gets changed, it will show in those associated classes the word change. Everything else is going to stay the same. A couple other things about a blueprint course. So once something is synced from a blueprint course into a teacher's course, we'll call that the associated course, and a teacher makes changes in his or her associated course, those changes will stay in the associated course. So a teacher can, once something gets pushed, if they want to change things slightly to adapt it more to their particular group of students, that teacher can make those changes in their associated course, the course with the students, and it's not going to be affected by the blueprint course. So the next time, if a teacher makes a change to a lesson plan in their course, and then in the blueprint course, some changes are made to that same lesson, this is only going to sync those changes, and it's going to keep the changes the teacher made. It's just going to add those updated changes from the blueprint. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of weird how it works. But I think it's important that you understand the back end of it and you understand how this works. So if I'm a teacher and I'm in a blueprint course, and I'm working with a group of other teachers, there's some things you're going to want to consider. One, make sure that you are all on the same page about what kind of content that you want to have in your blueprint course. I would also double check and make sure that you are all in agreement for how you want to have your content laid out. So if you want to work in modules, that you have your modules. If you want your modules laid out by week, you're all in agreement. If you want your modules laid out by content, that you're all in agreement. So come to those norms and come to those agreements. Once you've done that, you might decide on how often that you want to sync content in your blueprint course into the associated courses. Do you want to do that once a week? Do you want to do that every single time you make changes, which I don't recommend. I do recommend that you have a specific time that you set up. And then who's going to make those syncs? And so because you don't want any surprises for the other teachers in your group, if you make a change and say, oh, I want to sync that, if you're making the change just for you, make that change in your course, not in the blueprint course. If it's something that everybody wants to make that change, make it there. So whoever's going to sync the content, they're going to come over and they're going to click on the little blue icon, and you're going to come down to sync. Now you have a couple of choices. So do you want to sync your course settings? Those are things, probably the biggest one here is going to be the layout of your navigation bar. And so you might lay that out where you have only like 5 things that students can see. So each time, if you want to have those settings, those course settings stay the same or be updated, you're going to want to go ahead and click on that. And then send notification. That's going to send a notification to the association teachers to let them know that content has been updated. You can do that. You don't have to do that. It depends on the norms of your group who is working in that Blueprint course. And then you're going to click sync. I'm not going to do that right now because depending on how many changes are made, it's going to take a little while, and I don't want to hold up my my Canvas right now. But you're going to go ahead and sync. This can take 10 to 15 minutes, again, depending on how much content is in there. It will pop something up and tell you it's in the process of syncing, but it's as simple as that. So determine who's going to sync, make sure that everybody has agreed on the time when that gets synced, and then you can click that. If you want to see a sync history, you can come out and you can see a sync history, and you can scroll through and you can see when the new sync changes were made, and it will also tell you what, in general, what was made on there. So that's how you can go ahead about doing, looking at past history if you want to know what got changed in the past. So that's kind of an overview of how the Blueprint part works once you're in that Blueprint course. Let me go back and I want to share with you a couple other things. So from an admin side, just to show you what this looks like when a sync happens and how to set them up, you have a couple of ways. So if you have a sandbox class and you've invited a couple teachers and you all want that course to be your Blueprint course, you need to reach out to Niall or I. And because we're the only ones who can set a course up as a Blueprint course, and we're the only ones that can associate courses to that. That's just to avoid having because once things get synced out, you can't undo that sync. So that's just precautions. But this is, I'll just show you how we go about doing it. Just so you know, we go out into settings, and in our settings, we have a button that you don't have called Blueprint course. And we click and we enable that as a Blueprint course. Let's see, I may not be able to enable this particular one because of the way I have it set up, but I would enable that as a Blueprint course. Once it has been enabled as a Blueprint course, then you're going to see the little blue box that pops up over here. And that's how we create that. Once we've created that course, let me show you. So this is a Blueprint template that we're pushing out to teachers who are interested in using this as a Blueprint. So from my end, if I get requests for having a Blueprint created for a particular grade level, this is an elementary one. And so this is the request from Chain Lake for how they would like to have theirs set up. So they want it set up by the week, and they want to have some content underneath it, and then they want to have enrichment activity set up as a different module at the end of each week. And so this is the course they want set up as a Blueprint course. So I go in and I make a copy of this Blueprint course, and then I add the teachers from a particular grade level into that course, and then I create that course. Let's pretend that this is that course I just created. So I'm going to head in here and I click on associations, and then I add into here the classes of those 3, 4, 5, however many teachers. I add those in here, and now I have associated these courses from those teachers to this Blueprint course. And now they have the ability to come in and do the process I showed you for syncing that content. So I'm sorry, I hope I'm not oversimplifying things or making things too complicated, but I just wanted to share with you what this looks like. So this is one that has been already created that teachers can request that they have a module made or a Blueprint made with this particular layout, this template. We can make a copy of this, add you to it, and now it gets pushed out to your grade level team, and you start adding content. When you're ready, you can go in here and you'll be able, there's nothing in here to sync because it hasn't been associated, but you'll be able to click on that sync button and it will push those changes out to those associated courses. So that's essentially how a Blueprint course is set up, how it's laid out, and the different options that you have. Like I say, if you are working with a team already and you have a course that you've created and you want to make that a Blueprint course, please reach out to Nile or I, and we can change that into a Blueprint course, and then we will associate your courses with it so that that content gets pushed out there. On a side note, your class can only be associated with one Blueprint course. And so if you wanted, here's a situation we've run into. So we have like a teacher teaches a 1-2 split. And so she can't have one class and have it associated with both the first grade and the second grade because you can only be associated to one class. And so there's some workarounds, some things that we're doing to help manage these kind of things. Specialists is another area that we're looking at, and we have several options for specialists. So specialists, hold tight, reach out to us. We have some options for you in terms of some different layouts so that you have some choice of how you would like to have your content pushed out. So I'm going to pause for just a minute and check my notes, make sure I've covered everything I wanted to cover. Okay, yes, there were a couple other things. So question, can I import content from the Commons into a Blueprint course? Yes, you can. You can treat a Blueprint course just like a regular old any class. Whatever you do in the Blueprint course, you could do in your own class. Just know that whatever you put into this Blueprint course, when you sync, it's going to get pushed out to all the associated courses. So just make sure that you're doing things that everyone is going to want to have as part of their class. If you import something from the Commons into your class and it's an associated class, and then you sync a Blueprint, it's still going to stay there in your class because changes you make in your class are not going to be affected by the Blueprint. The Blueprint course just updates, and anything new that's been added, changed, modified in the Blueprint course is what gets synced out to those associated courses. Okay, so a couple other questions. So we have cross-listing available. So let's say that you are you're at the high school and you teach several sections of Spanish, and they're all exactly the same Spanish sections. You want to have exactly the same content. It is easier for you probably to cross-list your courses than to create a Blueprint course. You can go either way. But I would suggest you do one or the other so that you aren't creating that content 5 different times. And even with the new direct share where you can share the same assignment out to 5 classes, one of these ways is going to be the easiest way for you to manage that content and being able to push it to all of your classes. On a side note, if you want to cross-list courses, you're going to choose one of your classes, and that's going to be the parent class. Everything else will be associated underneath it. And so whatever you do to that parent class, it's going to show up exactly in that cross-listed course. If you change a due date in your parent course, it changes it in all the other courses. You can't go into one of the other courses and change a due date because everything relies on that parent course. So that's a cross-list course. If you think you're going to have a class that's going to be a little slower than some of your other classes and you're going to need to have to adjust some due dates, I would suggest using the Blueprint as an option in that case, where you can put all your content in the Blueprint and then you can sync that content out. It will go to all 5 of your classes, but you have the ability to change that associated class when it's a Blueprint class. When it's cross-listed, you don't have that ability. So just to kind of separate those out so you understand the difference between those 2 options. The Blueprint course being pushed out to 5 classes is going to be a little bit more challenging. Time-wise, you'll have to go in and make adjustments. If you want to make it to one class, you're going to have to go in and make it to all 5 of them. Whereas cross-listed, again, you make it one time in the parent course and everything, it changes in all 5 of your classes exactly, and you can make no changes. Okay, so if you are interested in moving forward with a Blueprint course, please let Nile or I know who you want to have as part of that Blueprint course. If you want us to share out this Blueprint course with you, If you want a different style created, we can help you create that. If you already have one and you just need it, already have a class that you want to make a blueprint course, just let us know. We can make that for you and make the associations to those classes. But just know, again, those associations have to be made by NILRI. So if you're interested in any of those options, you need to reach out to us. If you're a team, you're a PLC, and you wish to pursue this, but you don't know how to go or how to get there, as a team, set up, try and find a Zoom time, and then reach out to NILRI and look at our calendars. When you go to create a calendar invite, you can check and see our availability, check and see if we're available. If we are, send us an invite and we can Zoom in with you. We can talk your options through, and then we can help you adjust as a PLC or a team to making this however you need to have it designed for you. Okay, so that was some further information on Blueprint courses. I hope that helps. And tomorrow we're going to dive into quizzes. Bye-bye.